So this session, we're going to talk about Project Atomic and why it's important. So when you consider the nature of containers and what we're doing around that and what we like to do around Openshift, and you look at other projects out there like CoreOS, for example, you end up thinking that, well, when we're trying to host a lot of containers, whether that's on a local machine or whether that's on a cloud or if it's an OpenShift thing, because it doesn't really make sense to have a very full RHEL distribution up there. So you want to have something pretty minimal. So there's two aspects of Project Atomic that we should look at. For those of you who have internet access, it might be worth looking at Project Atomic right now. Let me actually do that. I'm going to do a screen share thing here. Let me see, when does that show up over there now? Okay. There's no sound for me?
Let me check.
I thought it was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was an echo, but I got rid of that. Okay. So there's some information up here. We'll talk about the VirtualBox version for the Fedora.
No sound again. Sorry.
There's no sound again?
What's wrong with this? Why does it
Are
keep
people
moving?
telling me there's no sound? Are you looking for this? What's wrong?
Okay.
We're back. Okay, great. We're back.
I'm just gonna.
Okay, so there's some great information up here on Project Atomic, but what I want to show you is there's two aspects of it. One is this kind of idea of a minimal image. One of them is this idea of the minimal image. So what Project Atomic essentially is, two things. One is it's this minimal image. It's the idea of just having the kernel and certain aspects of that being things like Systemctl, the SE Linux. Over here we have the containers, the red box there is supposed to be our Linux containers. And of course, Docker, and we'll talk about GearD tomorrow for those of you who are interested. The idea is that you have something very lightweight and thin that you can deploy containers to get a lot of capacity out of this. So the advantages of it, when it is a Red Hat Enterprise Linux, so it inherits the complete hardware ecosystem, military-grade type security, reliability, stability, all that good stuff, but it's optimized for containers, so it is a minimal footprint environment. But also, we're going to see how it's got simplified. It's very easy to deploy, update, and roll back using machine-based technology. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to play with this in a couple of ways. You'll have to bear with me because we have a lot of video streaming going on. We run the risk of things taking a while, so I'm going to try to minimize that today.
Yeah, you cut it.
That?
You cut your video stream.
cut my video streaming with this. Okay, so let me actually go back to my sharing, and I will cut my video stream. Okay, so one of the things we're going to look at first is why this? Why the whole VirtualBox thing? We like libvirt. When you're playing with this, you'll find that actually with libvirt it works so much faster and better. But what we're going to be trying to do is attract a lot of folks who are used to working with VirtualBox on their Mac or Windows. And a lot of DevOps people are very familiar with things like Vagrant and have a lot of scripting going on in Vagrant. I speak as a novice on this myself, so allegedly all those things. But when we go to things like DockerCon and other places where people are bringing their Macs with them and they want to get playing with this stuff, we want to provide a very easy way of getting them up and going. And you guys will probably want to do the same when you're out talking with your customers. So you have a look at this. What I would recommend, though, is if you're going to use Vagrant, still use the libvirt version of it because it's so much faster for demos and all that. If your customers want to use VirtualBox, that's great. Just warn them, though, that the libvirt provider version of for Vagrant runs so much faster, and we'll see some other advantages of that too. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop back over here. I'm actually in a VirtualBox here, and I'm going to do something. I'm going to resize this, by the way. I have an Atomic APAC environment because I'm afraid of the bandwidth here. I'm going to do a make directory, and I'm going to call it Atomic APAC 2, okay, and I'm going to change directory into that. There's nothing in here. I'm going to copy from Atomic APAC a file called a Vagrant file here. I'm going to PI that Vagrant file. I'm just going to change this to Atomic 2. And then I'm going to Vagrant. I'll lower this up. One of the commands you do with VagrantBox is you add. We're going to add a Atomic APAC 2. I have the provider be libvirt, but I am not going to go out over the internet for this. I am going to use a downloads version that I already have. That's called RHEL Atomic Host Vagrant Box. Okay? So I'm actually going to use the provider called libvirt. And it's going to, if I had used the HTTP, you can go out there and just download this off one of the repos. And in fact, while that's doing that, let me just show you. You'll see that up here we have a whole bunch of snapshots. There's an Atomic Host here. That's libvirt based. We also have in this directory the snaps. Oops. Yeah, actually, in here we have a RHEL Atomic Host that's a QCOW file, and over here I actually have that one up and running. Just so you know, see that RHEL 7 Atomic here that's running. That's good. Now there's my Vagrant one. that's not the APAC2, that's just the atomic APAC. That's one I have running just in case. Okay. Let's go back and see how are things going with this. On it.
Can you swap your colors to white and black, reverse color scheme, so that's easy to see?
Yeah, let's see if I can do that. I created one called. Is that better, folks?
Yeah, that's better. That's much better.
Okay. So it successfully added that box there called Atomic APAC 2. Okay. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna try everything in this environment, and if it all works out good, then in terms of bandwidth, because there's a few things I have to do when I get in here. So let's Vagrant up this box. So this is how you do this in Vagrant. For those of you who are not familiar, I'm going to tell it that the provider is Lindbergh. Okay. Now this particular box has some Vagrant file information built into it. The one I have outside of it, that little small one I put in this is just gives it the name and stuff, but there's a whole bunch of information we're going to see coming up here as this box loads. I don't want to spend too much time on this part, that's why I have one already loaded earlier. But I wanted to just point out through this process so people know, again, this is something you are going to want to get familiar with, just to play with, because people are very familiar with Vagrant as a scripting for their virtual boxes that they use. Over here, while that's happening, I'm going to pop over and see that somewhere along here we're going to see the Atomic APAC 2 default coming up. There yet. Here soon. So what are the other things that around Atomic that we need to consider, besides the low footprint part, besides the fact that it's only got things like the kernel and containers and SE Linux and Docker and Geardy and Systemctl. But one of the other things that's interesting about it is the way we do updates. So think of Project Atomic is based on a project called OS3, OS-TREE. The idea is that OS3 is like a Git for OS binaries. So the idea is that when you bring up an atomic image, you don't install it, update it in the usual way by using Yum. It is RPM based, but it's not going to use Yum to do upgrades. What you're going to do is you're going to do an atomic upgrade. Right now, the commands you'll see in here, I do RPM-OS tree upgrade, but by the time this comes out tomorrow or the next day or whatever, the actual command is going to be atomic upgrade or atomic. You'll be using the atomic command. Okay. So the idea then is, if it's a Git, it's going to essentially, it's kind of like in between getting a full blown image and also doing on the other extreme, the whole package management that Yum does. What it does is it essentially goes out and downloads the the updates that on a particular branch for the that has all the packages in it. It downloads those and it kind of merges them in with your own across your own environment in the Atomic. So you can then turn around basically when you do a reboot, your reboot is pointing at the new branch. You think of it in Git terms. And then if you don't like that, or if something happens, or you notice it's broken, or one of the packages doesn't do what you expected, you can always do an RPM OS3 rollback. I'm going to try that today. In fact, we're going to try it right now. So it appears this worked, which is awesome. Okay. So let's. It didn't take that long. Well, hold on. So now this box is up. We should see it over here and it works. Huh? And sure enough, there it is, up and running. Okay. So I'm gonna pause this one. This one's up and running. This one here I ran from the QCOW file. So this one is running QCOW, and as we'll see in here, these are the packages that did an RPM upgrade on. And if I do a Systemctl reboot, I'll boot into this upgraded version. But let's just wait. Let's go back to our other version of this here. Everybody with me so far? Everyone's with me. Someone's saying, can I make the font bigger on the terminal? On this one here? Really? Oh, wow. Okay, well, what's going to be? All right. So now I'm going to do a Vagrant SSH in. And what's nice about the libvirt one, as I said, is it's much faster for doing any sort of upgrades or any sort of even the installs are so much faster than the ugly stuff we were doing on when you use a VirtualBox. So just by all means, if you want to use VirtualBox with your demos on your Mac or whatever, that's great. But you probably prefer to do this with if you can using libvirt on a Fedora box or whatever for your demos. Okay, so now I'm in. Okay, and I can do in this case, remember I don't have an Atomic here, right? So what I'm going to do is going to do an RPM OS3 upgrade. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to do an admin. Let me see what admin does. RPM OS3. Give me a minute because it seems that I'm going to get some new commands here in a moment. So now it's. Oops. Oh, no. I know what's wrong here. So one of the things we do is by default, we don't want to have the GPG stuff. So what I'm going to do is vi, in fact, I have to su do vi/os/repo/big. Here you can see where it's going to go out on the repo and find stuff. And add that here. And now when I run my you can't have a space behind that. Okay, so now it's going out and it's going to try and download some upgrades for this particular machine. So let's have a look back here on the website. And you'll see that when we're doing atomic upgrades, we do the RPM OS3 upgrade, and then we do the Systemctl reboot. It'll tell us that afterwards. And then we're going to do a few other things. Might take a while, and that's why I was. The bandwidth. So while that's downloading, let's go over to our this version of it. There's a couple in here. This. And all good. How are we doing? Because okay. So what did I do here? Like I don't have under my over-resourced here. This one, but this one's going to take too long. By the looks of it, which will be here a while. Oh, I paused this one. That's right. Go back here. Pause it. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, so now let's look at what we did here. This Vagrant box, the one I prepared earlier. Did I do the upgrade on this? I believe I did. Let's see if I did. This. It looks like I have an atomic controller here. And I can force 0. With me here so far. Um,
Bluetooth.
Huh?
You go to your Bluetooth.
Right, but what if I unmute myself from here, I get echo.
Oh,
You there?
yeah. Okay.
Okay. Where was I? I'm back here on this. I'm going to well, you interrupted me now. I'm going to also start the IF config one. Is this one here? So one of the other things that comes with Atomic Box is a program called Cockpit. And a Cockpit allows me to look at my Atomic controller, which is really nice. So this is a very new UI that we've built, and it allows you to look at various things, including your containers that you've got up and going. And here's some containers that are on this machine here. First of all, I have some images. I can see there's a Docker registry. There's my RHEL 7 latest. For those of you who were on my call earlier today, you'll see that. And there's also a Fedora SSH latest or whatever. That's not really that important. All of these containers are stopped, but I could start them. So let's look at which one of those were interesting. The RHEL 7 latest bash, I could start that, but let's go back to the terminal and do it that way. So if I do a Docker images, I see that RHEL 7 one that I created earlier today. Some of you saw that, and I could say Docker run -t-i Red Hat /RHEL 7 bash. Now I'm in here. If I go back to my Cockpit, we'll see that there's this one running here. I believe this is the latest one because it's using 0% CPU, but it's got a questionable state. Let's refresh that. Whoops, what happened there? Did I press back instead of refresh? And if I select this, you'll actually see that I can change the resource limits. I could limit some of the memory on this machine, change its CPU priority through this interface. I can actually run anything I run here. See over here in the controller as well, in the Cockpit. Okay, you see that? So let me look at that again. If I do I can see here some of the SE Linux policies that are set up on the various drives. If I go back here, we'll see that I see all of that there as well. So I can, as I say, change resources on this if I wanted and limit the memory that it's using. I don't know much more about Cockpit except that I've just played with it recently, and you get some nice graphs and statistics on it. So again, I kind of lied earlier when I said that Project Atomic just contains the kernel and those other 5 components, SE Linux and the containers and Geard and Docker and something else. what did I say? Systemd. Yeah, that's it. It also contains Cockpit, so you can actually. No, Cockpit is not specific to Project Atomic, but it comes with it. Okay, so because remember, RHEL 7 Atomic is RHEL 7, just stripped down. So anything you can do on RHEL 7, you can do on Project Atomic. And the other thing too is you can host your own OS tree, if you like, server, and essentially update the packages up there for on the various branches, so that when you're when you do a OS3 upgrade, it gets the new branch on that. And so, you know, if there was updates to Cockpit, or if there was some new UI that you needed to put on there, or if you decided, the idea around Atomic 2, by the way, is that right now what you're seeing is what we're calling RHEL 7 Project Atomic Host, or sorry, Atomic Host. For the most part, we're calling it that. At the moment, it's just been called Atomic, but the idea is that it's a host for Docker and for Gear sort of stuff, right? But you can imagine where we may decide, well, that's just great, but for developers, they may need a couple more things. So, for example, we might want to have Git, or we may want to have you know, Vim or something for people. And so you might want to add different other packages to your Atomic branch. And then when you get, you know, that branch has got a particular name, and that's for all your developers. So they're going to get the sort of Atomic developer, if you like, right? That has these extra packages on it. Okay, so let's have a look here at back here to this particular image, and you can see that if I say Docker images here, I'm in a Docker image. Let me get out of here. Just trying to think. If I turn around and did I do the, is this upgrade done yet? Aha, it is. So this is the other thing we need to do here. So let's do the sudo systemctl reboot. And just wait for this to reboot. And when we go in, we're actually going to do that OS tree admin. And we'll do a few different things there. So look at this. Whoops. If you look at this, we got these packages came down, right? These are the packages that are updated on this. So it changed Cockpit, changed OS tree. Interesting enough. Let's see now what happens. Ah, look at that. Before I didn't have an Atomic, but now I do have an Atomic. So I can do things like Atomic do admin. It's basically the Atomic commands are now what were the RPM commands. So there already we've moved to Atomic from RPM OS tree on this branch. That wasn't there before. OS tree admin status. We'll see there's the branch I am now on, and there's the older one that I was on. Okay. Now if I want to do a rollback, so you saw the Atomic command there, right? Okay. If I do a rollback, so I'll do a Atomic rollback. And you can see it's moving to this one, the older one, from where it was, which was this one. I'm just waiting on it to go back. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. It doesn't usually take this long. It says its transaction's complete. Oh, that's okay. Wait now to come back here. Well, that's waiting to come back. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. This stuff is all so new, and it's not always obvious what's changed. Yay! Okay, so I now do the sudo systemctl reboot. And by the way, I mean that image that was, all those packages are gone. They're cleaned up. They're scrubbed. They're not there anymore. So it's not like they're still on the machine. If I go in there and try and do an upgrade again, it's not like it goes, oh, I already have them over here. It actually cleans them off your machine. So the idea is you could then switch. So let's go back in one more time. And you can see that there was packages there like the SSD common that was there a while ago and then got changed. So we'll have a look at how it got changed, and we'll probably see that it was in fact added and is no more. I don't know what's going on there. Hang in there, folks. Come on, kick in. Give me something. There we are. So now if I do atomic, it's not there. Okay, and if I do an RPM -Q on SSSD common, it's not installed. So if you have something that's broken, then you can just simply do an RPM OS3, or in our case, an atomic rollback, and we're back to the original branch we were on. So you essentially get rid of everything you did. You don't have to worry about which packages were installed and making sure that I get the right ones off. It's like it's a full upgrade or it's a full rollback from that particular branch. Okay. And of course, you get, as we said, all of the Docker stuff with this. There's nothing in there right now. And there's nothing running. Okay. So let's go back to this particular one and see what's running here. Nothing. But there are some images, some of them which I wrote down earlier, like the RHEL 7 from there. Okay. So, is there anybody, while we have a few moments, got any questions? I don't have a moderator here. Do I need to turn my speaker on? Let me see. Okay, hello? Oh, I don't want to do that. You guys talk. No, that's not going to work. You're going to have to ask me questions across the chat.
They're just laughing at you.
Who is?
Me and Harish.
You're all laughing at me?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because you turn on the speaker. You turn on the speaker there.
I turn on the speaker here, but the speaker's on here.
Yeah. So, but everybody else is muted. So.
Okay. Finally, Shiva's going to do his job.
My job was being done from my desk.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't hear it. So, somebody like the techno music. Atomic Arm. No, not yet that I know of, but I don't see any reason why that won't be soon. I mean, you know, you can hear me, you see. I think they can hear me. So, the way Atomic does the upgrades, the whole, I mean, I don't know, I should know, but someone like James Labaki could probably chime in here on how Core OS does it. But the advantage of Project Atomic is the way OS tree works, and the fact that it's kind of like, as we say, a Git for OS binaries, right? And so I don't think they do it that way. In fact, I know they don't do it that way. And this idea of being able to do a rollback and just, you know, essentially reboot and go back is something that they focus more on the small footprint, but not on the mechanism of how it's kept up to date. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes, Docker, as Harish points out, Docker 1.0 was announced. And so what we're going to see is Docker 1.0, the idea would be that it would be what we have in Atomic. We've been keeping very close to what they're doing. Guys, so it's also important to note that the App Infra group has been working very closely together on combining the Docker and the Atomic efforts along with the GearD efforts. So there's been a huge amount of work going on, and we've been doing an awful lot of QE just by trying to build demos to get this stuff to work. And you know, Colin Walters is the guy who's doing all the work so far on Project Atomic, but now that's gone upstream. I mean, the OS tree stuff is all there, is getting worked on by the idea is to get other people involved in that project as well. So there's been, you know, constant updates on what the RHEL 7 atomic image looks like for for example, putting Cockpit in there by default. And I think there might even be a default a container for doing Git stuff on it, for example. I saw that in one image earlier. So what the final version will look like in the next day or two, I'm not completely sure, but essentially it'll have Cockpit, Geard, Docker, Systemd, SE Linux, and Linux containers, and a couple of other things thrown in. More questions? So the other thing too is, guys, go out there today and play with go to projectatomic.io, download that's going to be the Fedora Atomic. Don't be afraid to go out there and get that and play with it, either using, as I said, I would recommend, particularly if you're on your Fedora box with Vagrant, you need to go out to the Vagrant website and download Vagrant, and you can do a libvirt there. Or if you want, just go and get the qcow file and start that if that's what you're comfortable with libvirt. And remember, everything is in there with Docker and all that good stuff to play around with. And it wasn't that hard, as you saw. Even I could do it. That's saying something.
Position this with a customer system level.
Only in the same sense as you position this as RHEL 7 in the works. Like as soon as RHEL 7 is released, the idea is that RHEL 7 Atomic is released. So it's out there in the wild as soon as we release RHEL 7. I know, it's fantastic, and as I said, you can imagine your in some ways, from an architectural perspective, you might just have ordinary RHEL 7 on your host, but all your VMs can be RHEL 7 Atomic VMs, and then within that run a whole bunch of containers. Or you could run, you can get a qcow and run this on bare metal, and then run your containers on it there as well. APIs to which part? I mean, the OS3 client, like for like in Python, or is that what you mean, or client? I mean, the clients are RPM, OS3, and OS3, and then newly named, as you saw in the upgrade, the for CloudForms integration. Yeah, I'm not sure on that question, to be honest. I need to check on that. But it's just a RHEL 7 image. I mean, yeah. Get James to address that. But in terms of CloudForms integration, what I mean.
Basically, I think what they mean is to manage CloudForms. Manage Docker images by CloudForms, right? As instances.
Docker images or atomic images?
Atomic.
Well, I mean, there's qcows, so I mean.
Theoretically, it should be possible.
Yeah.
But I think that integration needs to be built.
Right. So, guys, it is 3 minutes to the hour. Again, I'm just been playing with this and building demos with it for the last several weeks, so I'm as familiar with it in that sense. The real place to get answers and questions on this stuff is on HashApp Infra. That's HashApp Infra. Yes, when I say RHEL 7 Atomic, I mean a minimum image of RHEL 7 that's managed, though. There's two things here, remember. There's the minimum footprint, but also it's the way that it is managed. You're not going to do the YUM stuff. You're going to be doing RPM upgrade, and you're going to be doing it that way. Okay. So, and remember, there's an upstream Fedora Atomic, which is based on Fedora 20, and then there's the RHEL 7 Atomic. Okay. This is really, I mean, this is what we were talking about earlier in the keynote, the amount of effort we've been doing to try to make this, we're really pushing our cloud effort, and Atomic is strategic in that. All right. The base for Atomic will come from Red Hat. You won't be rolling your own, correct? But you could, like with, you could potentially, as long as you have entitlement capabilities, certainly have your own different branches as long as you have entitlements for this. I need to figure that out, but I know with Fedora up there, you could have your own OS3 based server for this. I mean, that's what we do internally, right? And somebody makes the updates, but that's a good question on the RHEL 7 side. I'm not sure that's a good one. That's a good question. So HashApp Infra, and Walters, Walters, is the man to talk to on that channel if you have questions there. Or send an email to hashappinfra-list and ask questions there. The guys there are really, really responsive, and this is exciting stuff.
Okay.
Thank you all very, very much. I hope this was engaging, and it seemed to work out.